Hi again, everybody. This is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. Another season is upon us. Spring training is underway. We'll recap a couple highlights from the spring activity so far. No Cody Bellinger. He remains unsigned. Take a look at the moves made by the Cubs and who else remains available. Plus, get an early read on the Cubs roster and a quick look around Major League Baseball. Important dates for the Cubs. Today is February 20th, the day after President's Day, meaning we're just 3 days away from the Cubs' first spring training game. First of a 34-game schedule this spring. Yesterday was the first full day of camp for the team that opens the regular season March 28 in Texas against the defending champion Rangers. So let's talk spring training headlines so far. Pitchers and catchers reported at camp last week. Media contingent a little larger than usual, primarily to see Shota Imanaga, a Japanese pitcher the Cubs signed during the offseason. He's 30 years old, left-handed pitcher, pitched very well in Japan over the last several years, also pitched for Team Japan in last year's World Baseball Classic. He's not a power pitcher. You're not going to see him going out pitching a 98 to 100 mile an hour fastball, more likely low to mid 90s with the fastball, but he's known primarily for his command and changeup. The throwing philosopher is his nickname. Full camp got underway for the Cubs yesterday, and team owner Tom Ricketts spoke with the media. Biggest headline from that convo is the ongoing stalemate with Cody Bellinger. He remains unsigned despite an impressive 2023 performance. He is a Scott Boras client. Boras is the agent of arguably the four biggest free agents who remain unsigned. Matt Chapman, J.D. Martinez, and Jordan Montgomery being the others. Pitcher Blake Snell, also a notable Boras client, is unsigned but is reportedly close to a deal. So this deal of top players being unsigned at spring training time, it's not new. We've seen it at times in recent years, but not to this degree, and it is not good for the game. Baseball is a long season. Spring training provides very important warm-up period for guys to go from off-season to being game ready for the 162-game regular season schedule. I mean, think of it this way. Guys in spring training now are still playing in 8 months if they're on a winning team, a contender, one who's playing in the postseason. That's a long time to play at a high level, even as a professional athlete. This is not good for the game. Fans are going to be at spring training games in just a handful of days this weekend, and top players are not going to be on the field. And it can't be good for team morale either. When you've got a high-level player, respected in the clubhouse, wanting to play for a team, yet the team and agent are not negotiating. That is not productive. That's essentially the situation we have here with Cody Bellinger and the Chicago Cubs. It's not good for the player. It's not good for the team. It's not good for the league. And you don't see this game of cat and mouse to this extent in any other sport. Another big headline this spring has been related to uniforms. A Nike and Fanatics collaboration, some new uniform designs. They're called the Nike Vapor Premier Elite uniform. They're supposed to be lightweight, greater breathability, but a lot of players expressing frustration with them, saying they don't fit, they look cheap. Dansby Swanson, one of those who spoke up last week, his beef is with the color on the Cubs uniforms. He says Cubby blue is a specific shade of blue, and these uniforms do not match that. It's early. We will see if uniform chatter persists very far into spring training. Cubs unveiled a new marketing campaign yesterday. You Gotta See It is the theme for 2024. That replaces last year's theme of Next Starts Here. You'll see plenty of that on Cubs social media soon, if not already. Let's talk about the Cubs roster. Perhaps the most splashy move of the offseason came early with Craig Counsell being named manager. Cubs swooped in after the Brewers refused to negotiate a new deal with him during last season. I think had Craig Counsell been leading the club in 2023, the Cubs would have been playing in October. He's definitely worth an additional 4 or 5, maybe 6 wins. You never know, especially above replacement. In this case, Craig Counsell being a far better manager than David Ross. Marcus Stroman opted out of his contract. He is now with the Yankees. Cody Bellinger, as mentioned, remains unsigned, and no deal is imminent with the Cubs or any other team. As much as I would love to see Pete Crow Armstrong out in center field on a day-to-day basis, Cody Bellinger is the best fit there for the Cubs. Shota Imanaga signed a 4-year, $53 million deal with the Cubs. although Justin Steele remains the team's ace. So Imanaga takes the position in the Cubs rotation that was held by Marcus Stroman. The rotation at this point looks like Steele, Imanaga, Jamison Tyone. Kyle Hendricks is back, and the Cubs have multiple options for that fifth starting spot in the rotation. Imanaga, the biggest Cubs signing in the offseason, although they also signed a pretty good reliever, Hector Neris, a solid bullpen option for the Astros last year. Guessing he'll be a setup guy as Adbert Alzolay remains a closer. But if needed, Cubs could use Neris in the closing spot. He has experience as a closer. Also, they acquired infielder Michael Busch and pitcher Yency Almonte in a trade with the Dodgers. Busch was one of the Dodgers' top prospects. Cubs hope to use him at first base. They gave up pitching prospect Jackson Ferris and outfielder Zaire Hope. Ferris is only 19. He only played 1 year at single A in the Cubs organization. He's likely several years away from the majors, but that trade gives the Cubs a very much needed option at first base in Michael Busch. Can't talk roster without talking about Christopher Morel. He's never had a set role with the Cubs, despite having a big power bat. Craig Counsell has a solution. He's betting on Morel as the Cubs' third baseman. Now, we know he's had some issues with throwing accuracy in the past, so improving the accuracy on throws from third to first is priority one, also cutting down on strikeouts. A couple other deals worth sharing. Carl Edwards Jr. back with the Cubs on a minor league deal. Might remember him as a trusty reliever a few years ago. And David Peralta signed yesterday with the Cubs to a minor league deal, potentially adding some outfield depth. This and that hour, look at news and notes from around Major League Baseball. Dodgers landed Shohei Ohtani with a 10-year, $700 million deal. He's not going to be pitching this upcoming season, coming back from surgery. They will be utilizing his services as a designated hitter in 2024. Dodgers also signed Yoshinobu Yamamoto to a 12-year, $325 million deal. And Tyler Glasnow acquired via trade with the Rays. That's 3 additions to the Dodgers starting rotation. 3 deals exceeding $1.1 billion. That is incredible. Dodgers acting early, getting all those deals done before Christmas. And I'm pretty sure at Christmas, the Dodgers had spent more money on those 3 deals than the rest of Major League Baseball had spent on contracts throughout the league. Unbelievable. Rules changes this year include a shorter pitch clock, 18 seconds instead of 20 that we saw last year. Teams allowed 4 mound visits instead of 5, plus a wider runner's lane. Couple signings worth mentioning. Brandon Woodruff reportedly signing a 2-year deal to stay with Milwaukee. That's a little deceiving because the Cubs aren't going to be seeing Woodruff anytime soon in those divisional matchups. Woodruff expected to miss most, if not all, of the upcoming season following shoulder surgery. Similar situation for Liam Hendricks coming back from Tommy John surgery. He signed, reportedly signing with the Red Sox, but not going to be seeing him anytime soon as he comes back from surgery in the offseason. Now, we are running short on time today to recap roster moves in detail across the National League Central. So let's quickly look at some early predictions for the National League Central. Obviously, a signing or two in spring training can still swing these. Pacoda and Fangraphs, usually pretty reliable. I like looking at those two. Both have the Cubs as an 81-win team, exactly 500, and a shot at the postseason. 33% with Pacoda, 36% odds of October baseball via Fangraphs. Both predictors have the Cardinals going worst to first in the division. Most sports books agree with St. Louis taking the Central, followed by the Cubs and the Reds. I'm not making my full prediction yet, but I do like the Cubs and Reds atop the National League Central. Just over 5 weeks away from opening day, plenty can happen, and we will recap it for you as we gear up for what we hope will be a Cubs Cody Bellinger reunion. We hope to talk about that on our next episode. Subscribe so you don't miss it wherever you listen to your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. It is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast.